So, hello, good morning, everyone. So, myself Vedant Nikam. So, this is the next video of our DBMS introduction. So, in previous video, we have learned that we have learned some basic concepts related to DBMS, such as what is DBMS, then what are databases, then some basic terms like what is entity or what are attributes. So, let's start with the second video. So we'll start with data abstraction. So, what is data abstraction? Basically, there are some things which are related to user side, whereas there are some things which are related to server side. So to have the difference between these two sides, there is one more level which is added inside this to maintain the security. So there are basically three levels related to it. First is physical level, second is logical level, and third is view level. So let's learn one by one. So this is basically the full flow chart related to it. There are various view levels in the view level system, and the second is logical level, and the third is physical level. So, what is physical level? It is the lowest level of abstraction which describes how the data is actually stored. And then, what is logical level? What logical level is the next level of abstraction which describes what data are stored in the database and what relationships exist among those data. And the third one is view level. The highest level of abstraction describes only part of the entire base. Then we'll learn some basic terminologies related to database. First one is data independence. It is defined as a property of DBMS that helps you to change the database schema at one level of a database system without requiring to change the schema at the next higher level. The second one is instance or database state at snapshot. Databases change over time as information is inserted and deleted. And then what is schema? Schema is basically overall design of the database. Now we'll understand the DBMS architecture. So basically, it is a three-tier architecture. The first one-tier architecture, second is two-tier architecture, and third is three-tier architecture. So we'll learn basically. So first one is one-tier architecture. So in one-tier architecture, the database is directly available to the user, and the user can directly sit on the DBMS and use it. So this is the block diagram of one-tier architecture. It includes CPU, disk controller, print controller, tape drive controller, memory controller, and memory. The second one is two-tier architecture. The two-tier architecture is similar to a basic client-server model. The application at the client end directly communicates with the database at the server side. APIs like ODBC, JDBC are used for this interaction. This is the block diagram of two-tier architecture. The next one is three-tier architecture. In this type, there is another level between the user side and the server side. That is, the client does not directly communicate with the server. Also, it does not directly communicate with the user. Instead, it interacts with an application server, which further communicates with the database system, and then with the use of query processing and transaction management, it helps it to do the further communication. So now we will learn what are server system architectures. So server systems can be broadly categorized as transaction servers and data servers. What are transaction servers? They are also called as query server systems, provide an interface to which clients can send requests to perform an action, in response to which they execute the action and send back results to the client. So the next server system is data server systems. It allows the clients to interact with the servers by making requests to read or update data in such as files or pages. For example, file servers provide a file system interface where clients can create, update, read, and delete files. Data servers for database systems offer much more functionality. So this is the classification of DBMS. So there are various classifications. The first one is classification based on data model. It is categorized into two things. First is relational data model, and second one is object oriented data model. The second one is classification based on user numbers. The first one is single user system, whereas the another one is multi user system. And the last one is classification based on database distribution. So it contains centralized as well as distributed database distribution, whereas distributed database distribution contains more types, homogeneous whereas heterogeneous. So this is the diagram of single user system as well as multi user system. There is one CPU. Yeah. So these are the two diagrams of centralized system whereas distributed system. In centralized system, there is only one central computer, whereas in a distributed system, each centralized system contains a computer, and network of these centralized systems is called as distributed system. We will learn why is database design important. So the first thing is database designs provide the blueprints of how the data is going to be stored in the system. The second one is the designing principles defined for a database give a clear idea of the behavior of any application and how the requests are processed. Also, It emphasizes the database design, that a proper database design meets all the requirements of the users. The next one is database design process. So, what is database design? So, database design can be generally defined as a collection of tasks or processes that enhances the designing, development, implementation, and maintenance of enterprise data management system. It simply means mapping of conceptual model to implementation model. So, there are various phases in database design process. The phase 1 is also called as requirement collection and analysis. The phase 2 tells us conceptual database design. Phase 3 is choice of DBMS. Phase 4 is data modeling mapping. Phase 5 is physical database design. And the last phase is database system implementation and tuning. So this is a diagram. So as you can see, requirement specification, there is database design, whereas application planning. In database design, it contains conceptual database design, logical database design, whereas physical database design. Further, physical database design is simplified into database implementation. And at last, database implementation is categorized into testing and then maintenance. So we'll continue with the phases of database design. So what are the requirements what are the requirements for this thing? First one is identifying users. Second is interacting with users to gather requirements. The last one is time consuming but very important. Conceptual database design. Produce a conceptual schema for the database that is independent of a specific DBMS. It involves two parallel activities. First one is conceptual schema design, and the next one is transaction and application design. So we'll learn what are the approaches to conceptual schema design. It is further categorized into two things. First is centralized schema design approach, and the second approach is view integration approach. So centralized schema design approach is also known as one-shot approach. Requirements of different applications and user groups are merged into a single set of requirements, and a single schema is designed. Time consuming places the burden on DBA to reconcile conflicts. What is view integration approach? Schema is designed for each user group or application. These schemas are then merged into a global conceptual schema during the view integration phase. Also, view integration approach is more practical compared to central schema design approach. So these are some strategies for schema design. The first strategy is called as top-down strategy. What it means is basically we have to start with a schema containing high-level abstractions and then apply successive top-down refinements. So as you can see here, the diagram mentions that first there is a relation between faculty and course, and then using top-down strategy, uh, we simplify these entities into some more attributes. So the next strategy is also called as bottom-up strategy. What does it mean? It basically means that we have to start with a schema containing basics, abstractions, and then combine or add to these abstractions. You can see the example in the following figure. The next strategy is called as inside-out strategy. It is start with central set of concepts and then spread outward by considering new concepts in the vicinity of existing ones. Whereas mixed strategy, it uses a combination of top-down as well as bottom-up strategies. So now we will learn phases of database design. So there are many factors considered to choice of DBMS. This is the first factor is technical factors. So these are the following things which are included in technical factors. The first one is type of DBMS. There are various type of DBMS as we learned earlier, such as relational, object, etc. The second one is economic factor. In this, acquisition, maintenance, training, and operation costs plays an important role. Database creation and conversion cost. The next one is organization factors. It contains two things. First one is relational or object oriented, and the second one is vendor preference. The third thing, or the phase 4, is also called as data model mapping. During the phase, which is also called as logical database design, we map or transform the conceptual schema from the high level data model used in phase 2 into the data model of the chosen DBMS. We can start this phase after choosing a specific type of DBMS. For example, if we decide to use some relational DBMS, we have not yet decided on which particular one. We call the latter system independent but data model dependent. The next one is physical database design, also known as phase 5. In this, we design the specifications for the stored database in terms of physical storage structures, record placement, and indexes. This corresponds to designing the internal schema in the terminology of the three-level DBMS architecture. And the last slide of today's presentation is called as database system implementation and tuning, which is also known as phase 6. So in this phase, the database and application programs were implemented, tested, and eventually deployed for the service. Various transactions and applications are tested individually and then in conjunction with each other. This typically reveals opportunities for physical design changes, data indexing, reorganization, and different placement of data. This activity is referred to as database tuning. So basically, tuning is an ongoing activity, a part of system maintenance that continues for the life cycle of a database, as long as the database and applications keep evolving and performance problems are detected. So this was for today's presentation. With this video, we have completed with the introduction to DBMS topic. From the next video, we'll start with some more concepts related to DBMS. That's it for today. Thank you.